Hello everyone, I'm the storyteller, and I'm here to accompany you today. I know you're watching this video to relax or help you sleep. So first, please like and subscribe. Where are you from? What time is it? Relax, unwind, and enjoy the moment. I found a strange fang in the woods and it ruined my life. The forest was alive again with the bright dawn, yet the air was thick with an unsettling silence. I lay on the ground, the moss beneath me cold and brittle. My head pounded, each beat a relentless drum in my temples. The cry for help still echoed in my mind, though I couldn't tell if it was mine or someone else's. The world around me was a blur, the towering trees swaying ominously in the morning breeze. As I struggled to sit up, the world spun, forcing me to clutch at the ground for balance. My hands were trembling, the dirt beneath my fingers a stark reminder of the night's events. The forest floor was littered with leaves, some disturbed, others untouched, each one a silent witness to the chaos that had unfolded. My memory was fragmented, like pieces of a shattered mirror reflecting distorted images. I recalled walking through the forest, the moonlight casting long shadows, each step deeper into the woods. Then, a sound, low, guttural, something primal. My heart raced as I thought of it, the fear fresh and raw. I stood, brushing off the dirt, my movements slow and deliberate. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine and something metallic, blood. My stomach churned at the thought. I looked down at my hands, the memory of warmth on my skin, though they were clean now. The confusion was suffocating, each breath a struggle. The forest seemed to close in around me, the trees looming above. As I stumbled forward, my thoughts drifted to Beatrice, her laughter echoing in my mind, now replaced with the haunting stillness of the forest. The weight of the unspoken truth pressed heavily on my chest, making each breath a laborious task. I took a step forward, the crunch of leaves beneath my foot breaking the silence. The path ahead was unclear, but I knew I had to move. The forest was no longer a place of wonder, but a realm of dread. Each step a journey deeper into the unknown. The fear was palpable, a living entity that would not let me go. My heart quickened as I stumbled along. I paused, hesitant to step forward, to see the truth. The familiar landmarks were now strangers in this altered reality. The forest, once a place of magic and discovery, was now a labyrinth of horrors. The cry for help echoed again, this time a call to myself, a reminder of what I had done. Then I woke up. I can still feel the weight of the dream pressing down on me again, the images still sharp in my mind. Every night since it happened, I have had that dream. The forest, the fear, the overwhelming sense of dread. It all feels like it did that night. It forces me to remember, and then I remember what happened to her. I shudder involuntarily, and a new despair grips me, and I wake again into the nightmare that is my continued existence. I suppose you could call this a confession, though I'm not entirely sure. The truth about what happened in the forest needs to be told, yet I'm torn about revealing it. Beatrice, my fiancée, she was killed, but not by a wild animal as everyone thought. What took her life was far more terrifying. It all happened just a month ago, during a camping trip, when I stumbled upon that cursed fang, and this nightmare began. The drive along the Olympic Peninsula was beautiful, a tapestry of emerald and amber, with sunlight filtering through the dense canopy above, casting pretty patterns on the winding road. The air was thick with the scent of pine trees and moss, a primordial aroma that filled the car as we rolled down the windows, letting the crisp air mingle with our excitement. Beatrice sat beside me, her hair dancing in the breeze, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. She hummed along to the music, her voice soft and melodic, a sound that had become as familiar to me as my own heartbeat. I glanced at her, watching as she leaned her head against the window, her gaze lost in the passing landscape. Her profile was silhouetted against the vibrant greens of the forest, and for a moment, I felt a surge of love and nervousness. The small box in my pocket, containing the ring I had chosen for her, felt heavier with each mile. I had planned this trip meticulously, wanting every moment to be perfect, especially the one when I would ask her to spend the rest of her life with me. We had met a year ago, in a campsite not far from here, our paths crossing in the midst of nature's splendor. She had been setting up her tent with the efficiency of someone who had done it 100 times, while I struggled with mine, my inexperience evident. Her laughter, warm and inviting, had drawn me in, and before I knew it, we were sharing stories and laughter around a campfire. Now, here we were, returning to the wilderness that had brought us together, ready to embark on a new chapter. As we turned a bend, the campsite came into view, a small clearing nestled among towering evergreens. The trees stood like sentinels, their branches swaying gently in the wind, their leaves rustling softly. The clearing was carpeted with moss, a soft emerald green that seemed to glow in the fading light of day. Beatrice gasped, her eyes lighting up with delight. "It's perfect," she whispered, her voice filled with delight. We pulled into the campsite, the gravel crunching beneath the tires. The absence of a park ranger was immediately noticeable, but I brushed it off, attributing it to the seclusion of the area. We were, after all, in a remote part of the peninsula, far from the main tourist trails. Beatrice, ever the practical one, took charge of setting up the tent while I gathered firewood, our movements efficient and practiced from years of shared adventures. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the clearing, a sense of unease began to settle over me. The forest, which had seemed so welcoming just hours before, now felt oppressive, the silence between the trees heavy and foreboding. I tried to shake it off, telling myself it was just my imagination, but the feeling lingered, a nagging sense that something was off. Beatrice, ever attuned to my moods, noticed my distraction. "Hey, everything okay?" she asked, her voice soft with concern as she placed a hand on my arm. I nodded, forcing a smile. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just a bit tired, I guess." She looked at me, her eyes searching, but she didn't press. Instead, she squeezed my hand gently and returned to setting up the tent. I watched her, feeling a pang of guilt for not being honest. But I didn't want to ruin the trip, not yet. I had plans, promises to keep, and a future to build. As the darkness deepened, the forest came alive with the sounds of nocturnal creatures, their calls echoing through the trees. The fire crackled, casting flickering shadows on the surrounding trees, making them seem to move and twist in the light. Beatrice sat close to me, her warmth a comforting presence, and I knew I had to tell her soon. But for now, I just held her hand, the ring box pressing against my leg, a reminder of the promise I was about to make. The night wore on, the stars twinkling above, and the forest holding its breath. I knew that this trip was just the beginning, a step into the unknown, where the beauty of nature could quickly turn into something more sinister. But in that moment, with Beatrice by my side, I felt a sense of peace, a sense of belonging. I had no idea then of how fragile the peace was. Worse still, that the darkness that lurked within the trees was only the beginning of the nightmare that would ruin our future. We woke up to a new day. The morning sun filtered through the dense canopy above, casting a warm glow over the campsite. The air was crisp and invigorating. Beatrice and I packed our backpacks with water, snacks, and the park map, eager to explore the trails that moved through the Olympic Peninsula. The absence of a park ranger still lingered in my mind, but I pushed it aside, determined to enjoy our time together. As we set off on the hike, the trail was everything I had imagined, serene, with the soft rustle of leaves and the distant call of birds. Beatrice walked beside me, her boots crunching on the gravel path. She was in her element, her eyes lighting up with every new sight, every new sound. I couldn't help but steal glances at her, her hair tied back in a loose braid, her cheeks flushed from the exertion. She was beautiful, and I felt a surge of gratitude for that moment, just being there with her. The trail pushed deeper into the forest, the trees growing taller and closer together. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating intricate patterns on the ground. We walked in comfortable silence, the only sound being our footsteps and the occasional bird call. It was peaceful, the kind of peace that makes you forget the world beyond the trees. As we reached a bend in the trail, Beatrice stopped, her gaze fixed on something ahead. "Look," she whispered, pointing to a broken trail sign. It hung crookedly from a post, the wood splintered and worn. Below it, a faint trail of blood led into the underbrush. My heart quickened as I followed her gaze. The blood was dark, almost black, and it glistened in the faint light. Beatrice frowned, her brow furrowing with concern. "Do you think it's a deer?" she asked, her voice low. I nodded, though I wasn't sure. Something about it felt off, but I didn't want to alarm her, not yet. "Probably," I said, trying to sound calm. "Let's take a look." We followed the blood trail, our steps cautious. The forest seemed to grow quieter, the trees closing in around us. The air felt heavier, thick with an almost palpable tension. Beatrice stayed close, her hand brushing against mine. As we pushed through the underbrush, we stumbled into a small clearing. What we found was nothing short of horrifying. A large deer lay on the ground, its body torn apart with brutal force. The carcass was mutilated, pieces scattered across the clearing. Deep claw marks scored the trees, too large for any local wildlife. Dark blood trails led in multiple directions, as if the deer had been dragged, then torn apart. Beatrice gasped, her hand covering her mouth. "Oh my God!" she whispered, her eyes wide with shock. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. This wasn't the work of a typical predator. It was violent, excessive. And then I saw something strange. It appeared to be several bits of shredded cloth, like fragments of clothes. It looked like it was torn by force and not by cutting. I even caught a glimpse of something that looked like a portion of a hat, the type that park rangers often wore. All of the fragments were weathered, as if they had been there for some time. "Beatrice," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, "we need to go." But before I could turn, there was a sudden movement in the bushes. I stepped back, my heart racing, and tripped over a root. I fell hard, my hand reaching out to break my fall. As I landed, I felt a sharp pain in my palm. I cried out, yanking my hand back. Beatrice was beside me in an instant, her face pale. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice trembling. I nodded, though I wasn't sure. My hand throbbed, and I could feel blood welling up. Beatrice took my hand gently, examining it. "There's something stuck," she said, her voice steady now. "Let me see." She pulled out a small first aid kit from her backpack and carefully cleaned the wound. As she did, I saw it. A jagged tooth, sharp and curved, embedded in my palm. It was large, at least 3 inches long, with an opalescent sheen that caught the light. It looked ancient, yet razor sharp. "What is this?" Beatrice muttered, her brow furrowed. "It looks like a fang." I didn't answer. I couldn't. My mind was racing, my thoughts spiraling. Where had this come from? What kind of animal had teeth like this? Beatrice carefully pulled out the tooth, and I hissed in pain. The wound was deep, and blood flowed freely. She pressed a gauze pad to it, her hands steady. "We need to get you back to the campsite," she said. "This might need stitches." I nodded, though I knew it was more than that. Something was wrong, something I couldn't explain. As we made our way back through the forest, the trees seemed to loom over us, casting long, ominous shadows. The air felt colder now, the silence oppressive. We both considered just what could have done that, and worse if it was still in the area. Beatrice walked close, her arm around me, her warmth a comfort. But I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched, that unblinking eyes were trained on us from the darkness. The forest, once a place of beauty and peace, now felt like a trap, a place where the lines between reality and nightmare were blurring. As we emerged from the trees and saw the campsite in the distance, I felt a wave of relief. But it was short-lived. The wound in my hand throbbed, a painful reminder that we could still be in danger of whatever had left that morbid scene. We discussed our plans, and I managed to convince her to stay for another night. I reasoned that it might have been a bear or something, and that we needed to take extra precaution that night, but that it should not spoil our entire trip. She agreed, somewhat reluctantly, and I felt bad, since I did not really believe my own rationalization. What's worse, I kept wondering why there were clothes near the butchered deer. Whatever did that couldn't have been human, but there were also no human remains. The air that night felt heavy and stifling. Even inside the tent, I couldn't shake the sense of being trapped. I knew we were just taking precautions for whatever might be out there, But I felt an even stranger sensation, like I just wanted to break out and run as fast as I could through the darkness of the forest and find something to eat. My imagination was jolted back to what was happening, and I felt the throbbing in my hand again. The wound, a jagged gash from the mysterious tooth, seemed to burn with a life of its own. But I wouldn't let it stop me. Tomorrow, by the waterfall, I would propose to Beatrice. The thought was a beacon, cutting through the haze in my mind. As night deepened, the forest outside came alive with sounds, hooting owls, rustling leaves, the distant howl that sent a shiver down my spine. Beatrice slept peacefully, her breath a soft rhythm against the stillness. I lay awake, my mind a turmoil of fear, but more disturbingly, hunger. The moon, a silver orb in the sky, called to me, its pull as undeniable as the tides it controlled. When sleep finally claimed me, it was not restful. Visions assaulted me, probing the forest, the earth beneath my paws, the thrill of the hunt. I was no longer myself, but a predator, driven by instincts raw and ancient. The moon loomed, full and brilliant, its light a cold embrace. I tore through the underbrush, the forest alive with my prey's fear. The vision faded, leaving me breathless and unsettled. Morning brought no relief. The wound was worse, the flesh red and swollen, emitting a faint, unnatural odor. Beatrice noticed my discomfort and frowned, but I brushed it off, not wanting her concern. Hunger gnawed at me, sharp and insistent. I devoured our stockpile of protein, the steak, sausage, and hot dogs. I could barely wait for them to cook on the smoldering campfire. The taste was raw and satisfying, yet it did little to quell the emptiness inside. Beatrice watched me with obvious concern, and I could tell that she was worried about me. I lied and told her I was fine, and that I had a surprise for our hike to the waterfall today. The hike to the waterfall was a blur of pain and resolve, each step a testament to my determination to try and make the moment special. We had arrived and were both taken aback by the natural beauty of the stunning vista. We walked toward the waterfall and watched as it cascaded, a veil of white against the rocks, its roar a symphony of nature. The time was finally right, and I took Beatrice's hand. I pulled out the ring, and she knew what I was doing as soon as I knelt down. She started to cry as I asked her to be mine. Her yes was a whisper, a promise, and for a moment, everything else faded away. Unfortunately, the moment was fleeting. I suddenly fell victim to the worst headache I have ever had in my life. It was sharp and blinding. I tried to ignore it, but I couldn't, and I almost toppled over. The world around me blurred and narrowed to a single point of agony, a searing pain that radiated from my temples to the base of my skull. I stumbled, my vision flashing with spots of light and dark, and before I could steady myself, Beatrice's hands were on my arms, her voice sharp with worry. Hey, are you okay? Oh my God, you're burning up, she said, her fingers tightening as she tried to keep me upright. I wanted to tell her I was fine, to brush it off like I had before, but the words caught in my throat. My mouth felt dry, and there was a metallic taste lingering on my tongue, like blood. She guided me to a rock near the edge of the waterfall, the cool mist from the cascading water hitting my face and doing little to ease the throbbing in my head. I sat down heavily, my breath coming in shallow gasps, and pressed my hands against my temples as if I could physically push the pain away. Beatrice crouched beside me, her expression etched with concern. She reached into her backpack and pulled out a water bottle, unscrewing it with one hand. "Drink this," she said, her voice firm but gentle. "You're probably dehydrated from the hike and this fever." "I'm fine," I managed to mutter, but the words felt hollow even to me. My body felt wrong, like it was betraying me. The headache was unbearable, a relentless pulsating ache that made every thought a struggle, and beneath it, that strange gnawing hunger lingered, clawing at my insides like an animal trying to break free. Beatrice frowned, her eyes narrowing as she studied me. "No, you're not fine. You've been acting weird all day. First, the way you ate all that food." She hesitated, her voice softening. "And now this. What's going on with you? Is it the wound? Is it already infected?" I glanced down at my hand, the gash still raw and oozing despite the bandage. It pulsed with a strange warm heat, and when I pressed on it, a sharp burning pain shot up my arm. I winced, and Beatrice gasped, reaching for my hand. "Let me help," she said, her voice laced with the nurturing instinct I loved so much about her. "We should clean it again, maybe apply some more antibiotic ointment. I have some in the first aid kit, but if we need antibiotics, we are going to have to leave early. I am serious." She touched my hand, and I felt a surge of something primal and dark rise up in me, like a growl forming in my chest. I jerked my hand back, my heart pounding in my ears. For a moment, I saw fear flicker in her eyes, and I hated myself for it. "I'm sorry," I said quickly, forcing a smile that felt foreign on my lips. "I'm just tired. Yeah, maybe dehydration. Let's head back to the campsite and rest, okay?" Beatrice hesitated, her gaze lingering on me as if searching for the truth behind my words. Then, after a moment, she nodded and stood back up. We started back for camp. The forest seemed to close in around us, the shadows twisting into forms that we watched and waited. I knew then that something was wrong. My head still throbbed and my hand burned worse than before. But the worst part was the call, the anticipation of what was coming next. I felt a thrumming of energy in the ground beneath me that made the pain of my head abate. I closed my eyes as I stumbled along and saw the brilliant silver moon shining in a dark sky above. The call of the moon was more than just a vision. It was a warning, a harbinger of the horror that lurked within. I tried to articulate my vision to Beatrice, but I just let out an unintelligible mumble as we moved along. The night air clung to us like a damp shroud, heavy with the scent of moss and decay. The campsite was a fragile pocket of light, the fire spitting and crackling against the encroaching darkness. Beatrice knelt beside me, her hands gentle as she unwrapped the bandage around my hand. The wound pulsed with a sickly heat, the edges red and swollen, oozing a viscous fluid that gleamed in the firelight. "You need to see a doctor," Beatrice said, her voice soft but laced with urgency. She dipped a cloth into the water bottle, the liquid sloshing as she cleaned the wound. The antiseptic stung, but I bit back the hiss, not wanting to show weakness. "It's just an infection," I lied, though the pain was a relentless throb that echoed through every vein. The forest seemed to hum with it, the trees leaning in as if to listen. "We can't leave now, not yet." Beatrice looked up, her eyes reflecting the fire's dance. "We can't stay either. This could get serious." Her voice was a gentle push, but I felt the weight of her unspoken fears. I shook my head, the movement sharp. "Tomorrow. We'll leave tomorrow. But tonight, I want to see the moon." She hesitated, the cloth hovering over my foot. The fire crackled, spitting a spark into the darkness. "Why the moon?" she asked, her tone tinged with a mixture of curiosity and concern. I couldn't explain the pull, the way the moon's call resonated deep in my bones. It was a primal urge, a hunger that gnawed at me like the emptiness I'd felt all day. "It's beautiful here. I want to share it with you." Beatrice sighed, her shoulders relaxing. "Okay, but we are leaving tomorrow. No excuses." I nodded, relief washing over me. The forest seemed to breathe with me, the trees exhaling a collective sigh. The wound throbbed, but I ignored it, focusing on the warmth of the fire and Beatrice's presence. As she rebandaged my hand, the forest grew quieter, the usual nocturnal sounds muted. The darkness beyond the fire seemed to press in, alive and watching. I felt it in my skin, a crawling sensation that made me want to move, to run through the trees until the moon was overhead. Beatrice sat back, her eyes never leaving mine. "You're sure you're okay?" she asked, her voice a whisper of doubt. I forced a smile, the gesture feeling foreign. "I'm fine. Let's just enjoy the night." The fire crackled, casting shadows that twisted and writhed like living things. Beatrice leaned against me, her warmth a comforting anchor. But even as I held her, the forest called, the moon's pull growing stronger with each passing moment. I tightened my arms around Beatrice, holding her close as the night deepened and the moon climbed higher in the sky. Tomorrow, we would leave. But that night, under the full moon, the forest would have its way. It was the worst mistake I would ever make. The moon was high in the sky, a silver sphere casting an eerie glow over our surroundings. The air was thick with mist, and the distant calls of owls echoed through the trees. Beatrice and I sat at the edge of our campsite, with the tent a dim shape behind us. The forest floor, carpeted in moss and ferns, seemed to hum with the night's energy. Beatrice leaned against me, her voice soft with concern. "Are you sure you're okay? You've gotten quiet all of the sudden." I nodded, though a shiver ran down my spine. "I'm fine," I lied, forcing a smile. The moonlight filtering through the canopy above seemed to pulse, and I felt an unfamiliar itch beneath my skin, like ants crawling through my veins. I tried to brush it off, attributing it to the strange wound on my foot, but the sensation only intensified, spreading through my body. Then the moon shone brightly, radiant and full. The pressure inside me was building, a relentless push against my ribs. My breath came in short gasps, and my vision blurred at the edges. The moon seemed to swell, its light burning brighter, hotter. Beatrice's hand found mine, warm and steady. "We should go back to the tent. It's getting cold," she urged. But I couldn't move. The compulsion was sudden, a primal urge to run, to escape the confines of our campsite. I tried to resist, gripping her hand tightly, but my legs twitched, muscles coiling like springs. The forest called to me, a wild, ancient voice echoing in my mind. I need to go," I stammered, the words barely audible. Her grip tightened. "What's wrong? You're scaring me," she said. My body jerked, a spasm ripping through me. I fell forward, catching myself on my hands and knees. The world spun, colors bleeding into one another. Moonlight was everywhere, blinding and suffocating. "Run," a voice growled, deep and unfamiliar. A voice that wasn't mine, yet it came from my throat. I pushed to my feet as Beatrice's cries echoed behind me. The forest swallowed me whole, darkness enveloping my senses as I ran. Trees blurred past, branches slicing at my face. Moonlight filtered through the canopy, casting dappled shadows on the ground. Each step was a pounding rhythm, driven by a hunger I couldn't name. Flashes of consciousness flickered through my mind, the earthy scent of damp soil, the sound of leaves crunching underfoot, the burn in my muscles with every stride. Primitive urges surged as a savage hunger gnawed at my belly. I was no longer in control. Something ancient and horrible had taken over. Time lost all meaning as the world narrowed to the run, the hunt, the relentless need. Then, as suddenly as it began, everything stopped. I collapsed, gasping, my body trembling under the high, silver glow of the moon that now hung over a clearing, partially obscured by clouds. I lay on my back, the ground cold and damp beneath me. Blood caked my hands, and my clothes were torn and dirty. Memories came in fragments, the desperate run, the overwhelming hunger, the tearing of flesh. It wasn't until I sat up, my eyes adjusting to the dim light, that the horror hit me. A few feet away, Beatrice's body lay mutilated beyond recognition. Blood pooled around her, staining the earth. My breath caught as my mind reeled. I scrambled to my feet, staggering towards her. The wound on my hand throbbed, a constant reminder of the forest's touch. "No," I whispered, the word breaking in my throat. "No, no, no." I fell beside her, reaching out desperately but not quite touching, because the reality was too vast, too horrific. My body shook as I sobbed. I rocked back and forth, clutching my knees, while the forest remained silent, except for my ragged breathing. The indifferent moon watched as my entire world was shattered. I lost track of how long I sat there. Time had lost all meaning. Eventually, in a haze, I staggered back to the campsite. The tent was seemingly untouched. I was lost and cannot recall how I ever got back. Now you know the truth. Somehow that fang, the wound, the moon, it changed me. I consider the old tales of werewolves and laugh in despair as I think about this living nightmare that is my fate. That fang, whatever it came from, it might be just like it worked in the stories. Apparently you did not just have to be bitten by a live one. The fangs themselves are a curse, and I am the victim. Beatrice, I will never forget you, no matter how badly I lose my mind to this curse. The new cycle is here, the full moon is imminent. It comes tonight. I leave this account of what happened as a warning. I am going to bind myself in a secure location and pray that I cannot escape and hurt anyone else. The call of the forest still echoes in my mind, a haunting reminder of what I have become. I know that the darkness will return, and next time, I might not remember anything at all. I can never forgive myself. Beatrice, I am so sorry. And that's it for today. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, subscribe, and leave a comment letting me know what you think. Relax, unwind, and get some sleep. See you in the next video.